welcome to today's live episode for Power Nickel. This is our monthly series. It's the third episode, and I'm pleased to introduce Power Nickel's CEO, President, and Director, Terry Lynch. Hey, Terry. You're going to walk us through a company presentation, I think, today, and after we're going to take questions live.
By the hair of our chinny chin chin.
Exactly.
We just literally got everything coordinated here, guys. But anyway, good to be back with Six, and we'll give you guys a bit of a Christmas update. I've got my Christmas bear here. This is all part of the holiday season. I'm into the fireside chat sweater because I'm basically, winding down a little bit. It's been a very busy year for us, and I just came back from London, and pretty bagged. But it was a really transformative year for the company in terms of what we've accomplished. It's started to move in the stock market, yet hasn't come yet through, but we're really on to some great things. I'm going to walk you through a bit of an update. I'm going to give you a bit more background on the nickel market and why I think nickel's going to be one of the hot sectors next year, and I think we're going to be one of the hottest guys in that sector. So that's all going to be all good for us. So without further ado, we'll start, and then you can obviously ask questions. I think Cam will give you some directions on how to do that. And then we'll chat afterwards and get an update and answer any questions you might have. All right, let's moving right along. Standard disclosure statements that you see on all these deals. We basically tell you the truth as we know it, but it's always good to do your own due diligence, and that's a practical, safe thing to do. So let's talk about the nickel market. So interestingly enough, nickel today, I just checked, is around $13. That's a pretty great number when you think of it. For example, as we did our resource, updates in 43101s, generally speaking, it's been at $8. Some have done it up to $9.60, but there's significant upside, I think, in the nickel price right now for us, which is interesting. The prices, obviously got crazy earlier in the year with the London Metals Exchange and the sort of disruption that happened there. And then, towards it got softened a bit in the summer with the recession concerns, et cetera. You can see, can barely even see this light blue thing in here. That's sort of the softness. But as you can see going forward, it looks pretty robust. And it's somewhat a tale of two markets. Basically, the surplus is in class 2 nickel, not class 1 nickel, which is what Power Nickel would ultimately end up, we think, producing at its high-grade nickel sulfide mine in NISC. Even within class 1, it's really geographically super short in North America, as this shows down here, and versus, say, China. So I mean, class 1 nickel from China is just never going to find its way to North American automobile manufacturers. So that's why class 1 nickel is just in a really tight position and about to get a lot tighter. This is what it looks like demand-wise as we go forward. Batteries will be a key driver of long-term growth for nickel. There's two major themes in nickel that drive nickel's sort of demand sort of curve, and that would be urbanization, which is people buying more pots and pans, fridges and stoves, and driving the pursuit of stainless steel. So stainless steel is the big sort of gorilla in the house. It basically accounts for about 70% of nickel consumption. Batteries are, I think you see various numbers in the sort of the 10 to 15% range right now, but it's growing rapidly on a compound annual growth rate, and they expect that by 2030 it'll be like 35% of the market. And you can see here, these are sort of the growth as it's shaping up, various different sort of assumptions, with the nickel, depending upon how much nickel is being used in the batteries, and it's shaping up to be a fairly significant price discrepancy. The U.S. demand growth is happening today. That's because this IRA is the Inflation Reduction Act, and it's basically incentivized investments in the United States and somewhat in Canada as well to build battery plants. And these are plants that have already been announced, something in the neighborhood of over $35 billion worth of projects. and they will all need class 1 nickel, and there's just not enough of it to go around. So if you've got class 1 nickel, you're going to be a very popular date at the ball. So this sort of reinforces it with how it works is that basically it starts at 40%, and then as you go through the years, actually gets up into 90% of supply has to become from North America. They look at it a couple of different ways, but nickel qualifies in both ways. And what it means is that you can't actually make a car at 90% without having North American nickel. It just will not be possible to get your full subsidy. And imagine if you're an automotive maker, if you're Toyota and you're competing against General Motors, and General Motors has got its supply lines in order and has able to provide a full, $7,000 or $8,000 subsidy, and Toyota doesn't for whatever reason. And I'm not picking on Toyota; it could be the other way around. The point of the matter is, you're an automotive manufacturer. You definitely want to be competing, equally with your competition. So they'll be doing all they can to secure their supply lines and make sure that they're going to have lots of class 1 nickel to work with as they go forward to build the electric vehicles that they are, forecast to build at that point in time. So that gives you a bit of a, I think a broader theme. I've given some talks on this, just in terms of, I think that's one of the points people miss on the nickel story is that there's, like all things, there's several nickel stories. There's the class 1 nickel story versus class 2 versus recycled nickel. There's the North American story versus the European story versus the Chinese story, and so when you get down into the submarkets of where we're at, we're North American class 1 nickel, and we've got a high demand gap that we're missing, and we'll miss. It's going to get worse and worse, and so substitution will take care of some of that. You'll have some recycling come in, but there's by anybody's reporting, there's going to be significant need for new nickel mines to come in and fill the gap, and that's going to be reflective in the pricing. So I think probably over the next year, nickel pricing is going to look strong, and that will drive interest and investment in nickel, and that's going to be good for us and good for our shareholders. So that's sort of a broad, I think, market drop on that, and I think overall, if I was investing in sectors, and obviously I made a big investment in Power Nickel just in the last 5 weeks. I believe nickel is going to be a very compelling spot to be in 2023. Let's dive into the details on Power Nickel. Some of this is just refreshing, but we did put out some news a couple of weeks ago, so it's important to touch on that. So the major points that'll drive us going forward is that we've been drilling for about 4 months now, and we'll be drilling for another 4 months, total of about 15,000 meters. We're starting to get those results out. We'll talk about some of those shortly, and more will be coming in early January and sort of every 3 or 4 weeks after that until the end of June. We'll show you that we're trading at a fairly deep discount to our comparables, and ultimately, as the market becomes aware of how profound our discovery is, and as they see it become commercial, that discount will shrink. I think that'll be a great day for all of us. We think the commodity bull market is here. We're starting to see it, certainly in the base metals, and nickel has obviously been responding. Nickel, it has, as we just went through, why the supply demand curve and class 1 nickel, in particular North America, is particularly fantastic. So we're in good shape there. I think the other thing with our project that we're really happy and blessed with is that it's polymetallic. So it's not just nickel. It's got copper, it's got cobalt, it's got lots of palladium. And that's important it'll drive economics. It also enables you to finance more creatively at some point in time if you want to go that route. So there's a lot of benefits to having a polymetallic deposit, which is what we've got. And then finally, we'll talk about the bonus spinouts that we've got in our copper golds that is not insignificant. So where are we at in Canada? We're basically in Quebec, in northern Quebec. And that's I think, a ridiculously great spot to be. It's probably, I would say, Western Australia and Quebec are the best jurisdictions in the world right now, and I would argue Quebec's the best. Number one reason, I think, is the Quebec government's done a superior job of providing both infrastructure support and education to the communities where mining is important. So they've done a great job of working with our native partners, the various Aboriginal groups in Quebec. So they understand the benefits of mining and how it can impact their societies and be helpful to them, and yet still be respectful to their traditional ways. And they've also done a good job of basically providing the roads and power and things that really are essential for cost-effective mining. So Quebec has been fantastic that way. And then finally, they have the best financial incentive package in the world right now, where you can basically for every dollar I get from an investor, I can turn it into at least two in real cash and deploy it for exploration. So there's no other regime like that on earth. I'll walk you through an example of that later on, but it's pretty profound. Think of it as a spot where everywhere else in the world they have to spend $1, and in Quebec we have to spend 50 cents. So that's a huge advantage for us. Yeah. So these were the results we got in March of last year, and then based on that we expanded like a 30,000 meter program that we started with this first 5,000 meters we committed to. This area in here that I'm circling on, that's roughly, we internally modeled 5 million tons, non-43-101, but that's our modeling. We stand by it. This is the, if we go back here, this hole in here, and this hole here are these two holes. And this was the 26 meters of 2%, and this is about 5 meters of 1.7%. And they were like 150 meters each out of the resource area. So those would have, probably add 1 million tons right there. I mean, there's a significant, very promising results. And you can see them here. Sort of this is this hole and this 2209 down here. So these are all other holes that are going to be reported on. There's a few more. I think there's, we'll be reporting 2 or 3 holes every 3 weeks or so. Probably start. The next ones will be out in early January, sort of probably end of the first week in January or the beginning of the second week. We'll get that out, so that will be significant. Again, this slide was the one we had talked about, but when you sort of see us going up to 10, all of a sudden you start to realize there's a significant, commercial valuation that can happen as a result of that. And it happens generally because you found more nickel, and the nickel you found is going to get paid more because it's being perceived as being commercial. And then the other upside is the one we sort of talked about at the front end, was the basically the nickel price curve being supportive. So there's upside to that. Just to give you a number on that, we basically, if you model it $8 nickel and you go to 960 nickel, you increase your revenue by about 20%, but your profitability goes up about 35%. So it even though the revenues go up, your profitability goes up even more. So every time you go up, it's a pretty significant sum of money that could add to the overall value proposition. The one of the things that we're quite excited about is that we're just working this very small section of 1 kilometer back here. Just to go back a slide or two. This here is a kilometer. So that's 1 kilometer that we're working. Now the overall width of this thing, pardon me, is about 3.5 kilometers, and these are about 2 and 2 down here. There's a lot of promising ground here. What's interesting in nickel sulfide discoveries around the world, they're never single pod, they're always multiple pod. So we would expect this to become a multiple pod situation. And we basically would think that would end up having, our this is an ultramafic deposit. Other ones like it in Canada were Lynn Lake at 22 million tons and Voisey's Bay at plus 50. So we would think our geological team believes that we'll likely be between there. So sort of between a 20 to 50 million ton deposit at the end of the day. So, I think what that means for us is it's going to be massively commercial. What we're doing to sort of evidence that and prove it is to continue to do the drilling. So we'll basically, we finished now for Christmas break. People are like me getting teddy bears for their grandkids. And taking a bit of time to recharge, but they'll be back at it again in mid-January, and we'll be drilling until end of April, early May. We'll also, be updating our 43-101, which we'll hope to get out in probably in June, and to incorporate as much drilling as we could possibly do. And then we're doing some pretty interesting stuff on the finding of the other pods. So in addition to doing seismic and gravity, which will be the normal historical ways you would have found these extra pods, we're also going to be doing something called sound imaging, which is pretty interesting. Talon Metals has done it in Minnesota with great success. And it was, we think that they were exposed to the technology by, their relationship with Tesla and Elon Musk. And they basically, there's a company in Australia called Fleet Aerospace that does the sound imaging. And it's basically like sonar mapping of a deposit. And they figured out a way to sort of somehow turn that into intelligence on potential deposits. And it's particularly effective if you've already got an existing known deposit. They can use that as a model. So we're going to be doing that in conjunction with the the gravity and seismic, and we think that'll expedite our discovery of the other pods, which we have no doubt are there. But obviously, the sooner we can find them, the quicker we can drill them up, the more our resource goes up, and the more our valuations will go up. We spend 90% of our time, rightly so, speaking about our nickel projects and nickel opportunities. But we do have some other assets in the company, and they're not, invaluable. They're very valuable and not unvaluable. So this is our copper and gold projects in BC and Chile. So we basically, in BC, we have a very significant copper gold asset. This is in the heart of the Golden Triangle. This is the triangle down here. And we're right down here, and we're overlooking the town of Stewart. So we're the mountain overlooking the town. We're effectively the top of the mountain, really. And it's never been drilled. And there's some pretty interesting development happening around us. Strike Point Gold and Skyler Resources are advancing their exploration and getting some good results. You've got Ascot Resources, which is now building a mine as a result of their discoveries, just next door. So that's all good. That happened before we had acquired the project, so that was good acquisition from our side. We did some, it's never been drilled, so this has never been drilled yet, but we sampled on surface and found 3 different samples on surface of over half-ounce gold. So that's very exciting, or half-ounce gold. And down here, right on the border, Silverado has got Strike Point's best results. So pretty interesting. We think there's a definite something happening here, and something that can be exploited, whether we do it directly ourselves or in cooperation with some of our neighbors. Will probably unfold in the next year. What might that be worth? Basically, these things are worth about 15 to 20 million, is my guess. So that's almost worth what we're trading at today. So that's a strict bonus that you get as sort of a downside protection or future upside, any way you want to look at it. And then we have Chile. We used to be called Chilean Metals, so obviously that was our focus, and we have some amazing tracts of land there. You'll notice that it looks like it's a sandy, barren place. Well, in fact, it is a sandy, barren place. But what's interesting is there's a lot of potential value over there. Over here is the former, the Candelaria mine that Freeport-McMoRan developed and is now owned by Lundin. It's a multi-billion-dollar mine, and it's basically they're going to run out of production there in about 4 or 5 years, and they're desperate for somebody to discover something close by. And we've got we got the most of the land next door, and it's been super underexplored. We've done some work, but the challenge has been when you explore in the sand. There's a thing called caliche, which is a mineralized limestone that is at the base of the sand, and it tends to restrict the signals for gravity and for seismic to be effective identifiers of possible intrusions that may hide a copper, gold deposit, porphyry, whatever. And so as a result, it's underexplored. What's interesting about the sound mapping technology that we're going to be using at NISC, because we'll probably use it here first, is to get a feel for, because sound mapping they've used in Western Australia, which has similar sand dunes and similar conditions, and they have had no problem with the caliche. So that could be transformative of for us being able to see better underneath our huge lens packages. I mean, we've got 3 packages that are size of city of Toronto, like several 6,000, 8,000 hectares. That's just like mammoth land packages. Yet, not very well explored. But this could be a way to really get a good regional view on things and to vector in on some opportunities. And again, what we do with that, it remains being seen. Generally, the working plan for if all else, if we don't consider another M&A transaction that's possible, we'll probably spin this off, in Q2. Last year we talked about doing it, and then the market was so bad we just didn't see that making economic sense. We think this year this is going to be the year to do it, so we can translate value. We want people to be able to invest in Power Nickel as a nickel play, and not a lot of people that want nickel don't want copper or gold. So they're sort of 2 different animals. So what we do want to separate those, but we'll be sort of we'll definitely find a way to get that value translated back to our shareholders, either through a dividend or a sale, and those proceeds going in reducing dilution in the future from NISC. The other asset that we've got that's significant and that's becoming more popular now is our royalty asset that on the project we sold to Teck. That project looks better and better now, with the copper prices looking bullish, and moly as well. So we're certainly open to selling that project now. That people now have stopped trying to take advantage of us. They realize that, hey, we're not going to sell it for nothing. There's this thing is worth several millions of dollars, and there's cashed up royalty funds that would maybe make better sense for or Teck itself. So we're not sure, but we're open to that if we get the right price point, because that would again reduce future dilution. The team hasn't changed, so still same group. We've always tried to put our money in the ground at Power Nickel, because that's what good juniors do. So how we do it in Quebec is we've got 2 great geological consulting teams, 3D Geo, led by Ken Williamson, and they've been the leaders in mapping our deposit and 3D modeling it, and have done a tremendous job in helping us find the resource. So we're super stoked about the job they've done. And then we've been using GeoVector to manage the drill program, and they've got some great leadership over there. Joe Campbell's one of the industry veterans, and certainly super successful junior mining guy, and his team with Adam and Eric and the whole group have been phenomenal, and they've done an amazing job for us in executing, and that's allowed us to focus on fundraising and telling the stories and getting out there, while they're being left to execute on the science side. And we're generally super happy with what they've been able to accomplish. Since we last spoke, I think concluded a financing, and we basically raised a little about $4.2 million. It was when we announced the deal, I think the stock was 10 cents, and we ended up doing 70% of the deal at 20 cents, a 20-cent unit, and a half at a 10-cent unit. We did that because I talked to you about that 2-for-1 deal in Quebec, where you basically can get a Quebec-based financial institution to step into the transaction, and they have taxpayers in Quebec that can take advantage of various significant tax advantages through the flow-through and through the mineral tax credits that the governments have put together, so that they can justify their investment. They basically my understanding is that if their top tax rate in Quebec is 55%, after they do this transaction, it drops to 43%, and they have no risk. So they're happy with reducing their tax. And then for us, the benefits obvious. We get $2 for every one. For the investor, it's fantastic because he's got $2 working for them, to help the company grow and obviously help their investment grow. So it's a really financial, wonder really of the mining world, and we're lucky to be in Quebec and be able to take advantage of that. So we've done that, and we expect to take advantage of it in the future. And I mean, at some point, we'll need to raise more capital down the road here as we move forward. We're fully funded through the end of this program, but we think that as the year comes to an end and the new year starts, that there's a lot of funds looking at putting Power Nickel into their fund, and there's the pressure. We think the stock is going to have a big run, I guess, and so that by doing that, we'll be able to finance at higher prices, and then use the 2-for-1 to get even more. So it'll reduce share dilution in the future, and that'll be good. And in this round, basically, it went to 95% all existing shareholders, with some very rare exceptions. And that was basically because it was a very cheap round in our view. We didn't like to do that at that price point, but we had no choice. We needed to, because now we have enough money to make it, we think, commercial. So we think next round we're going to be showing the world a much different animal in Power Nickel, that it's going to be, at a commercial stage where people see that, this is going to become a mine, and how big is it going to be? That's going to be the next question. And so we the Lynch family did the biggest check writing this round, but all the big shareholders participated, and because they didn't want to be diluted, because they felt, hey, they've taken it this far, let's not be there now, because this will be when the big value gap, I think, shrinks. Is that when the projects go from exploration to commercial, that's when the real money's made in mining. So I'm giving you guys a checkered flag, as I'm saying that's, in my mind, based upon my own writing significant checks, I believe fully that's about to happen for Power Nickel. So, final, just wrap up before we get into the questions. Basically, reiterate that we've made a major discovery at NISC. We've shown in our most recent results how that we're really getting some big holes. 26 meters of 2% nickel is a big hole, and we think there's more of that coming, and maybe better. We've shown we're trading at a fairly massive discount to our peers. We understand why historically that's been the case, but now that the market should start to realize, hey, these guys have got a major discovery, and it's going to become even more major. That shrinkage should start to go away, and that'll be profoundly impactful for our share price. We're going to keep drilling. We'll be drilling from now until the end of April, early May, whenever breakup happens. That's about the only sort of 6 weeks we can't drill at NISC. And we'll be reporting as a result of that every 3 or 4 weeks. So that means it's going to be an action-packed, sort of news-friendly time period for our shareholders and our company. That'll enable us to get a brand new resource out that will bring in the new metallurgy, bring in all the new drill results, and hopefully deliver a resource that shows the marketplace that we're commercial. We think we're just blessed that we got a polymetallic deposit, which gives us a lot of flexibility in addition to driving the economics. We think there'll be some interesting news on the spin-offs and/or M&A transactions on our other core assets that people have generally forgotten about. And then finally, we're working in Quebec, so we've got this amazing 2-for-1 financing model working for us, and I mean, people just have not figured that out yet. But that is going to be transformative for people that are working in Quebec that have viable deposits. So that's about it. Cam, why don't we? I'm going to go back to some of these slides that I think might be useful, and we can pick up some questions and go from there.
Absolutely, Terry. Thanks for the great presentation. And just as a reminder to everyone in the audience, you can ask questions using the Q&A chat found on the right-hand side of your screen anytime. But first question from Miguel. What's your forecast for the nickel price in the next 3 to 5 years, Terry?
You know what? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I've read a lot of stuff in this, Benchmark and Goldman Sachs, etc. Certainly, they're talking next year. It could be sort of could approach $15 again. Right now it's around 13. The general feeling is it should be in the $10 to $15 range. As you get it beyond $15, nickel starts to get substituted out because it gets to be too expensive. and then it drops back. So there's that. So I would think that's a fairly good, comfortable range. And as I said, most of the modeling that we've done has been at $8 nickel. So anything in that range is money for us. So that's going to be good. And the longer it stays there, that'll mean when we ultimately sell this, because that's what we won't be building this mine. We'll be de-risking it. We'll find all the ore bodies we can. We'll de-risk all the environmental stuff. We'll de-risk all the metallurgy and do all the preliminary economics so it can be assessed and sold. But we think that there's going to be a significant premium for North American nickel, and so we'll get paid for this.
All right. I think you've gone over it a little bit before in the presentation, but what's the difference between the various nickel forms that are there?
Yeah. So basically, it's sort of there's three types of nickel: Class 1, Class 2, and then recycled nickel. So and I guess even within recycled nickel, there's ferronickel and there's other things, but generally speaking, those are the three that people talk about. So Class 1 nickel is what's needed to make battery metals. Theoretically, it's possible to purify Class 2 and recycle nickel, but those facilities don't really exist yet, and they're expensive and they're energy dense. So in other words, to make it, Class 2 nickel into Class 1 nickel is not a very green friendly thing to do. So that's, when you're trying to sell consumers on switching to EVs because this is the right thing to do, then that doesn't make sense. So those are the three types of nickels. And just to summarize where we're at with each is Class 1 nickel right now is in a shortage in North America and generally in the rest of the world, but not in China. Class 2 nickel is generally in there's a bit of a supply, certainly in China, where they've got I would say a supply of Class 2 nickel. But Class 2 nickel has been growing as well with the stainless market. Recycled nickel is growing, and that's going to be one of the things that you'll see that there'll be a recycled nickel market, but it's still early days. But I'm sure that'll come. And if you look at the long term, sort of 5 years out there, the recycled nickel will be a part of the package. But right now, Class 1 nickel looks super strong, probably through the lifetime of our project and the sale of our project.
All right, great. Adrian wants to know if you could provide an update. You've previously made comments on the short positions on Power Nickel.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, we generally feel there's a significant short position out there. We've got some plans for those guys that we think they'll not be happy with. But generally, the best plan is show them there's a lot more resource, and that will take care of these guys, because as people realize, hey, this thing is worth a few $100 million and maybe a couple billion, these shorts are going to be covering because they're going to be in harm's way. And one of the reasons why we sort of did this financing that we didn't really want to do, but we had to because we needed to sort of take it the next stage, is we're going to take this to a commercial stage through this that round we just did. So we think that by the time this round is done, if the market stayed as bad as it is right now, at 20 cents or something like that, we could actually take this and sell it to industry at that point in time and get like a lot of money, because this will be a mine and they'll go that and they'll pay up because there'll be 10 of these guys trying to buy it. So trouble is coming for these guys, and they can either cover now or they can cover later.
Fair enough. What impact do high nickel prices have on returns?
So yeah, it's quite profound. We'll have in our project, each project will vary. So I would say, but broadly speaking, as a rule of thumb, if nickel prices rise by 10%, your profitability probably goes up by 15%. Okay, or 15 to 17.5. That would be the range. So that's a good rule of thumb. So every if we went from $8 nickel to $12 nickel, so profits would NPV would go up by probably 85%, something in that order of magnitude. So even though it went up by 50, sort of 80, something like that. So it really does translate into better returns for us.
Right. Are you expecting any results from previous drilling? And do you have core and data from previous exploration?
Yeah, we have core from the previous exploration, like the historical stuff that was done before we acquired the project. We had the core from that. That was why we were able to, or why we'll be able to incorporate, that information into our revised and updated 43-101. And obviously, in any of the new stuff that we've done since, November of last year through, the current time period, we'll certainly have all that available, and it's all logged and stored professionally on site, and we're in good shape there.
Great. Joe's wondering if you have any evidence to support that your nickel is class 1, and if there's any reason that you're specifically talking about class 1 versus class 2 now.
Basically, old metallurgical reports, this will be part of the things that'll come out of the new metallurgical stuff. We'll obviously substantiate that, but it's a high grade nickel sulfide, so that would be the logical progression is to make it into class 1 nickel. But that'll be officially put to bed when we do the PEA, which will come out at the end of the year. And typically these things, if you look at Talon Metals, they're probably the more recent PEA that I can think of that was done, and they did 3 types of scenarios that make it into a concentrate, make it into nickel sulfate, and or make it into nickel powders, and the various forms of investment. But again, it's a class 1 nickel in all cases, but you get various types of returns based upon how much farther you take the nickel along the process line. So also some pretty killer new technology coming out of Australia that BHP has financed that looks to be that you can add a circuit to your flotation process and go almost like it's called a nickel leaching process, and you can go directly to nickel sulfate. So you wouldn't have to go to concentrate. It could be even more cost effective. So yeah, we definitely think we've got a class 1 nickel deposit, and the proof will be ultimately in the PEAs, but it's based upon the high grade nickel sulfate concentrate that we've got.
No, fair enough. David's question, you might have just covered it, or at least the first half with that answer. But if there's anything else, maybe you can make comments. But about any metallurgical work that you've done, and if you have any byproduct credits.
Yeah, again, the metallurgical, there was metallurgical work done historically many years ago by SGS, and we're doing a whole new suite of metallurgical right now, and it'll be ready in about 4 months. And the credits, yeah, we would think there'd definitely be credits. Certainly, there may be, you may run a couple of different cons. There may be a nickel concentrate, there may be a copper concentrate, there may be, there'll certainly be a palladium credit, and the cobalt as well. So, this will be, as we get through the PEA, that'll be spelled out more particularly.
Absolutely. How important were the first assays that Power Nickel released?
I think they're very important because it basically showcases the potential for the deposit to grow, and substantially, and that you can find much higher grade ore here and much bigger sections of it. So those are all super positive things, and I think we felt really good. The first go round we went 7 for 8 in drilling, and this round, I would say we've been hitting about 80%, and that's fantastic if you're drilling. This is, it's 150 meter step out is, that's a great step out. That's exploration. So yeah, it was in an area that we thought there was obviously the guys, the team did a good job of theorizing where the deposit was, and it's been a fairly interesting river of nickel to follow, and it's doubled back on us once, which is sort of cool, as rivers do. Sometimes they turn and then they come back down, and that did, but we were able to track it, and so it's been great. The guys have done a really good job on the exploration.
Absolutely. Adrian wants to know, he's saying that auto manufacturers are starting to take an interest in battery metal suppliers. Have any talks taken place with respect to offtake agreements at all?
Yeah, we've had talks, not with automotive folks yet, but with companies. Yeah, or the nickel manufacturers themselves have been. Everyone's interested in this deposit potentially because it could be next to Talent Metals. This could be the next nickel mine in North America that could be conceivably up and running, and so everyone wants to get that one in the till. So this will get as people get more aware of what we've got, they're going to get more and more excited about getting involved with Power Nickel.
Right. Would the mine be open pit or underground?
This first pod would be open pit and underground. Other pods, until we discover them, it's sort of hard to forecast. But this first one would be a open pit because the deposit goes right to the surface, and we're down at a depth of about 400 meters now, so it's still open at depth. So who knows what's down there, but this is where it's at right now.
Fair enough. Could you talk about the upcoming news cycle for Power Nickel, including when investors should be able to expect the next PEA?
Yeah, so basically, we would expect that, as I said, early January, we'll get the next round of results out. And then, we're getting we put the results in every week, starting since mid-September. It takes sort of 10 to 12 weeks for them to come out. And then we like to get 2 or 3 holes out at a time. So I would think, after we start the results out in January, then it'll be sort of, towards the end of January, the next one, and then, later in February, mid-March. So every 3 or 4 weeks, generally speaking, with the results should come. And then, that will, we'll do until probably, I guess, end of June. And then at the same time, we're finishing off the new metallurgy, and we'll update our 43-101 and get that revised 43-101 out, and that'll be sort of end of June as well, I guess. And then we're working towards a PEA in Q4, so that would be sort of the timeline. And then the other thing that will be of significance is that we'll be basically doing a regional exploration effort to find the next pods, so that we can show that this is not just a single pod mine, that it's there's never been one like it in the world yet. But we think it's going to be an amazing time. I think I get asked a lot, what do we think about the overall market conditions and blah blah blah. What happens if there's a recession? And it's like, even in the market crash of 2029 or 1929, there was stocks that went up, because inevitably, and I don't see anything like that. It's so dark. There will be, if there's a recession, there'll be sectors that still outperform, and I think the battery metal sector is going to be one of them. And I think North American nickel, if you actually, we evidence the continuous success with the drill bit that we're showing right now, and deliver the upgrades that we're talking about, there's no way this is not worth a lot more money than we're currently valued at. And so I think from a comfort perspective, people should take confidence in that. And I know it's been a scary year, and a lot of people have been traumatized by losses in the market and just general fear. But I think there's going to be a resource boom that's going to start in the base metals, and ultimately the precious metals will probably jump on board at some point. And there's going to be serious profits made, fortunes made. And I'm saying to investors that they should strongly look at over allocating to the mining sector in general, and the battery metal sector in specific. And certainly they could. We obviously believe in Power Nickel, and we've written serious checks to evidence that belief ourselves. And we have no problem, saying to people, this will be a great great exploration play for you, and we think it'll soon be a very lucrative one. So I think that's the way to leave the message, and wishing everyone a very happy holiday season, Merry Christmas. Hope you get to spend some time with your family. It's been a challenging last few years, and we haven't been able to get together with family as much as we'd like because of the COVID rules and all that crap. But generally, this looks like to be a year that we can do that, and I hope everyone takes the time out to spend some time, recharge, have a blessed Christmas and blessed holiday season, and we'll look forward to getting back working for you early in the new year, and hopefully 2023 can be a really fantastic year for us all.